Hello, and welcome to the Path of Most Persistence. This is a place where we hear and share tenacious stories of overcoming obstacles with our partners who dare to share a bit of their own personal paths. Dr. Cindy Lawley is the Assistant Vice Chancellor for Academic and Outreach Programs, Associate Agency Director for Workforce Development and Regional Divisions. Dr. Lawley is responsible for the Pre-K-12 Engineering Education Outreach Program, the Engineering Academies Program, the Professional and Continuing Education Program, the System-Wide Engineering Academic Program, the Engineering Regional Divisions, and the Engineering Conference Division. She has over 30 years of experience in project management with over 25 years in higher education. Over the last 30 years, Dr. Lawley has worked extensively with industry and academia in creating a talent pipeline, upskilling and reskilling workers, as well as providing pathways for underserved populations to obtain degrees in engineering. Dr. Lawley is currently the lead on a $6.4 million development project with the Department of Defense to create a talent pipeline. Under Dr. Lawley's leadership, the Pre-K-12 division has trained over 15,000 administrators, counselors, and teachers, and engaged over 26,000 students in engineering and problem-solving activities, including competitions and summer camps over the last 4 years. Dr. Lawley, it's such an honor to speak with you today. Thank you so much for coming in.
Well, thank you for having me today. I'm excited about having the opportunity to talk about what our great group does, and we're real excited about this and looking forward to having the conversation.
Well, again, thank you so much. And just for full transparency, we've had a shift, a change in structure, and we, my team, the Nuclear Power Institute's team, is now under your leadership, and we're really excited to be part of your team. So thank you for welcoming us as you have. And I have to tell you, I've always been a great fan of you in particularly, but also all the good works that you do in all of your teams. So this is exciting news for us.
Yeah, well, it's great, and I think it's a perfect transition. I mean, the work that MPI does so closely connects with what our Spark team does.
Yes.
We have the same mission throughout the state, so I think it's a natural progression to put the two together. So I think we'll have a lot of synergies there, so we're real excited about that.
I agree, really excited about it. But as I read off, you're very brief because I did have to make your introduction concise. But my goodness, you're a very busy woman, and you have many, many responsibilities on your plate. So if you can, just for the sake of our audience, just tell us about your day-to-day and perhaps some of your departments that you lead, perhaps some of the projects that you're working on you're most excited about.
You know, it's a great group. I mean, we have really had the support of the past Dean of Engineering, now President, and then Dr. Hurtado is very supportive. We started in 2016. I took over the workforce group, and we had 3 individuals. We had one person that was doing pre-K-12. We had just started the Engineering Academy program, and we had one person doing professional and continuing education. Mm-hmm. So we are very unique at A&M in that we have all of these functions together. We jokingly call it cradle to grave.
Yes.
And I said that one day, and an individual says, "Did you say grave?" And I said, "Oh, I didn't say grave, but we could probably go there. We're interested in lifelong learning." So we actually can take individuals, start with the itty-bitties, as we call them, the little, even the kindergarten kids, and get them really excited about what they can do and what they can accomplish. So our Spark team does that, so we have a pathway all the way through, and we do the awareness of engineering. We would love to have everyone be an engineer, but even if they can't become an engineer, they can at least take those problem-solving skills and those critical thinking skills throughout whatever career they choose to do. So our pre-K-12 group does that. We also are so proud proud of our Academy program. It was started in 2015, and it's a unique, one-of-a-kind first engineering program in the nation that's an actual co-enrollment program. So we work with our 2-year partner institutions. We have 7 across the state, and our students actually are part of a 2-year institution. At the same time, they're part of Texas A&M Engineering. So they are co-enrolled. And the reason that program exists is because we wanted to provide an affordable and easy pathway to actually have students become engineers at A&M and graduate. So they start there. We have faculty that teach our engineering courses there. And the beauty of it is the students can stay close to home. They can stay at their homes. They can take their math, their science courses, and everything at the 2-year institution. But they can also take their engineering course. So they transition up here. And we're very specific to say transition, not transfer, because they're already part of it. They're taking our engineering courses. We teach the exact same courses at our 2-year institution that the students here are taking native at the College Station campus. And then they can transition into any of our departments, graduate with an undergraduate degree. So excited about that. But then we hope that after they get out and we find jobs, and whether it's internships, and when they graduate, they'll go out into the field. But then they have to do professional and continuing education, that they'll come back to our group. So we have that area of our professional education group that we're very excited about. Many of our programs now, we have the grant that you mentioned, which is with the Department of Defense. We're looking at middle skills specifically for the manufacturing area. You know, manufacturing jobs are growing so much. The state of Texas has over 20,000 contractors that have DOD contracting. And so we're talking to industry a lot about what are you looking for? And while they desperately need engineers, one of the things they look for are middle skills. And middle skills could be anything from showing up to work on time, you know, how to do resumes, how to do financial, you know, just the balancing, you know, their paycheck from time to time, how to, you know, make sure they do things there. But even middle technical skills, technician level skills, the things that make the industry work, especially in manufacturing, is 4.0 and robotics and things like that are coming in. We're really excited to get, you know, the technical skills that we need for that. So we're working a lot on that grant. We also, in our professional education, have another very exciting project in the Rio Grande Valley. We were lucky enough to receive state funding for advanced manufacturing in the RGV area. So we are down there. We work in conjunction. TEAS works in conjunction with TEACS. And we, as part of that, are training. Our goal is, in this biennium, we're working, just started year 2, that we will train 10,000 individuals, we will provide certificates for 10,000 individuals by this time next year. So we, like I said, are on year 2. We are down there. We are talking. We're even welding. You know, we are really working that a lot of the industry down there will tell us. Even engineers, where you know, process joining and things like that. I mean, you know, we've talked to SpaceX. You know, SpaceX has a lot of welding, but it's exotic metals. It's metals that can withstand high temperatures. So it's things we just don't think about. But it's a lot of the individuals down there in the valley. This is totally, this grant or this money from the state allows us to provide free training. So all of the individuals in the valley will get free training, free certificates to go through this program.
That is huge. That is significant. And just the brief overview that you've given, I'm already just overwhelmed with questions in my mind. So please be patient as I ask from every different direction. So just for our audience, you mentioned the RGV. That's
RGV is the Lower Rio Grande Valley. So it's the along the border, the Cameron County, all the way through to the McAllen area.
Very good. And TEACS?
TEACS is one of our sister agencies. So engineering consists of the College of Engineering. We have TEAS, TEES, is our engineering experiment station. TEACS, which is TEEX, is our Texas A&M Engineering Extension Service. So they go out. TEACS works a lot, does municipality training. So they train the firefighters. They train the law enforcement. They do a lot of municipality work and training out in each of the areas, very much like extension agents that in agriculture that many of us grew up with.
Thank you so much for taking the time to review that, because I know we speak so much
in
acronyms.
We do that a lot in higher ed.
Yes. I just want to make sure our audience is well aware because your information is so important. But what I really appreciate, and I want to start off here, are some of those skills that all of these programs seem to have in common. You mentioned about problem solving and those middle skills, just basically life skills. They transcend every area, every career. So it is exciting for me as a lifelong educator to see that institutions of higher education are taking these on. And some of our audience may be really shockingly surprised to know that the breadth of the programs that you have under your leadership, from everything, as you mentioned, from pre-K to working with the U.S. Department of Defense. So how is it that you're able to maneuver, lead your teams, but also finding common threads amongst them to be as successful as you are? Because that is the beauty of, I believe, the work of the workforce development. There are these common threads that run through every sector that you all engage and every age level. So how do you do that? Because I know you do it intentionally.
We do intentionally, and I tell you, I have a fantastic team. And as you started out, there's a lot of things you go through, and we put a lot of titles on my position, and we have a large thing. But it is totally a team that does it. I am very blessed as we built the team. As I said, we started out with 3, and we luckily right now have 46 on the team. Amazing. And they are very, very much. They have a mission. Each team, so the Spark Pre-K-12 team, the Academy team. So each division has a very specific mission that they do. We have just gone through the process as we're growing so fast to kind of look at our strategic plan about what is really our mission for the state of Texas and for beyond, both nationally and beyond. So while each team has their individual mission, we also work very closely as the whole workforce team together. So all of our directors meet and they talk about, okay, what are some of the common things we have? Because these middle skills or these professional skills, they go through all areas. The problem solving, whether you are a professional engineer, you're doing problem solving. Whether you're a kindergarten kid, you're trying to decide, different things, how they go, how things piece together. Right. So we work very closely together. Our engineering academies and our Spark team are very, very close in what they do because we, as the awareness of engineering and the field comes up, as that pathway is developed, they don't always recognize, I can't go to a 4-year college right now. Right. So they think, oh, man, I can't do this. This is not for me. So they work very closely when they're out in the schools working with the teachers and the kids to talk about these alternate pathways or ways to get engineering in. Another way that we have found, and we have been doing this probably the last 2 years, we have partners across the state. We work very closely with Texas State Technical College. We have a new program called the Bachelor's Plus program. And that came specifically from listening to industry. We're talking about our needs of, you have fantastic academic students that you graduate with bachelor's degrees, but they don't always have a lot of experiential learning. So we worked with Texas State Technical College to develop some 9-week certificate programs. So most our professional education course and our Texas State Technical College course, so that over 9 weeks, our engineering students can go. They can take welding or architectural drafting, cybersecurity, process improvement, various things like that. 9 weeks in the summer, they take that course. It is a joint course with Texas State Technical College and T's Professional Education. They get a certificate at the end of that, and they can add that onto their resume. So it is actually a plus to their engineering bachelor's degree. We've had industry tell us that if they had a 4.0 student that had just gone to class, or if they had a 3.2 student that had this extra experiential learning, that they would hire the 3.2 student with this experiential learning over just the person that had just gone to class.
That's
so
incredible.
It's a great opportunity for our students.
And I think all that you're talking about and all the initiatives and all the pivoting that the university is doing is amazing. And maybe perhaps unless you work in these fields or you partner with the university in this way or some of the industry, I think the general population may not be so aware of how education has changed so much from maybe some of the traditional structure that used to be, and bringing in those applicable skills that not only benefits that employee, that future employee, but industry, because ultimately that's what it's about. Once you get your education, to live a full and healthy and productive life, but to be employable.
Exactly. And we have, on the academic side, we have a degree called interdisciplinary engineering degree. And that actually came about from some of the exact things you're talking about, as that, we may not fit the typical mechanical engineering or aerospace engineering or whatever. There are a lot of applications out in industry now where they need skills from each of those. So our interdisciplinary engineering degree is one that is built so that they can take classes in aerospace, they can take classes in mechanical, they can have a kind of a build-your-own degree focusing in particular areas, because it does. So we have adapted to meet the needs to what all the industry are asking for right now.
I love it. And thank you for sharing, because our audience, if they don't know, now they're beginning to know, and this is really critical. It makes A&M even more special and wonderful.
It does.
But if we may just pivot just a bit, because I'm thinking of all of our K-12 partners.
Exactly.
And just simply with my background in K-12 and the years that I spent at a high school, the notion of the academies is a dream come true.
Yes.
I think it's a dream come true for secondary educators. I think it is for parents and families, all those that, or even that, or maybe in rural areas that can't get to some of these locations where they're very far from universities. So how did that whole concept of the academies come about, and how hard was it to get it going and off the ground?
Dr. Banks, it was her idea when she was dean. Now President Banks was dean here. Is, you hear articulation agreements or 2+2 agreements a lot, where two-year institutions would say, you come here for 2 years, get your associate's degree, and then you can go to a university. And they would have an agreement that says most of your classes transfer. And what we would hear a lot is that students would say, hey, I took all these classes and then I tried to transfer and they wouldn't transfer. So when we, in 2015, we looked at the books, and Dr. Banks is like, we've got almost 80 of these with two-year institutions across the state of Texas. Some of them had not been looked at in years. Wow. And courses were not offered, and we were just trying to make a better pathway in. We also, affordability was a large aspect of it. So we started with two partner institutions, Houston Community College and Blinn College in Brenham. And she set those up to where, let's do this as a pilot just to kind of see. We also were very fortunate that we got funding from Chevron. The industry was really excited about, these are the kids I need, because it was exactly as you said, rural kids. What we have, many times we hear misconceptions that the students that go to two-year institutions are not good enough to go to a four-year institution. And that is not the case at all. It is typically either personal reasons that they need to stay closer to home, or it's financial reasons. So this makes the affordability and this particular aspect of it makes it much easier. So our students could stay locally at the Houston area or in the Brenham. And Brenham actually is a unique location because they have housing. So students can actually come in from all across the state of Texas, and they do. We have individuals all across the state of Texas that come to Brenham. They stay in housing there, and so they can take their classes. And like I said, it was a very unique concept because we didn't want them to be behind. So we actually have a faculty member. We teach one engineering course per semester there, and it's the exact same course. So between the funding from the Chevron group that we're very fortunate about, and the two to start with, we started our very first class in Houston had 70 students. And I have to say, I remember we did kind of a tour of Texas. We had 2 or 3 we opened to begin with. We went down there and we did these openings, and it was moms and dads that would come up with tears in their eyes going, my kid would never be able to go to college if you did not provide this option. There's kids, we have academies, we have a lot of homeschool kids. So we've been very fortunate in San Antonio. We actually had a 14-year-old that had gone through, had graduated through the homeschool system, but Mom and Dad rightly were not going to send their 14-year-old to Texas A&M, with 70,000 students here. So they went through the Engineering Academy program, actually came up here at 16, doing fantastic up here. But that program allowed that.
Thank you for sharing that story. I love hearing the human connection, because that's what it is to be in education. You hear a lot, perhaps, and in the news or media about education and the current events, but on the day-to-day, again, unless you work with these young people and all those that make things happen, it is a passion. It is not only our profession, but I think there has to be a certain level of true enthusiasm for doing the best thing for our students, ultimately, of course, again, for industry and our society. But I think it's those interactions, as you expressed, with families and individuals that really fuel us so many times. Thank you. So just to pivot a bit more, so when you think about the academies and starting off with those 2 or 3 campuses, was it difficult to find professors with that buy-in that were eager to work or ready or willing to work with these young students on a different location, a different campus?
So, it's very interesting because A&M has what we call professors of practice. So professors of practice are different than our typical research faculty that are here that teach our undergraduate students. Professors of practice we have at A&M, we're very fortunate in engineering, we have almost 100 now. But they are individuals that have been out in the field. They have to have at least, I think, 10 to 15 years experience out in industry. They have to have engineering degrees. They have to be in engineering. Ideally, they have a little bit of teaching experience, but we train them. In the academy, we are very fortunate that we hire individuals from their professors of practice. So the faculty that we put on the 2-year campus are engineering professors of practice, but we bring them here to College Station and they stay 2 semesters and they train. So they go through and they learn pedagogical methods. They go through and they learn the class material. They shadow the faculty that are here before they go out to the 2-year campuses and they teach the courses there. So we have been very fortunate that anytime we have posted an academy position that we've had people from other states call and say, this is a great program. I want to move to Texas to do this. Many times it's been local that we'll have individuals from industry that, we just did this in Fort Worth. We've started our last campus, started this fall in Fort Worth. And we were lucky enough that there was an individual that worked at Lockheed Martin, and he was kind of he's an Aggie and just an engineer and was looking to change career paths and is, here training this semester. Just very, very excited. The other aspect that our professors of practice bring that is so unique to our academy program is they bring the industry connection in. So they are required at the academies to have industry panels come in and talk to the kids about this is what it's really like working in the field. There's nothing worse than going out and spending 4 years going to school and you get your degree and you're out in the field and you're like, man, I hate this job. So you really, if they get the experience, they know what's going on. We also have a dedicated person in our academy program that works to find internships, co-ops, experiences for our students. So it's a really close group. We have mentorship. Chevron and ConocoPhillips Concho are sponsors of our programs, so they provide mentors to our Engineering Academy students. So while they're going through, they have professionals out in the field that mentor them.
That's incredible. Just recently we had on as a guest Colonel Mark Johnson.
Oh, yes.
And so
Wonderful.
He talked about his amazing position as a professor of practice. So he enlightened us all. And I think that there probably couldn't be a better educator in those classrooms because of the applicability that they bring those experiences. That's tremendous. To pivot a bit more, I want to start talking about the industry side of relationships. Now, of course, everyone, I'm sure, wants to partner with Texas A&M, TEAS, but is there ever a time where with some of your new ideas, your new concepts, your new projects, where it has been challenging and where you've really had to work for a partner that was in total agreement?
It's shifted a lot. And then I would say even pre-COVID was a little difficult. But, the economy, a lot of it goes also with the economy because industry, workforce development's always the buzzword. But industry, when the economy goes down, the first thing, unfortunately, that industry have to cut are training programs. Yes. And so that, we can provide an opportunity and an alternative to that. So a lot of times larger companies will do all of their training in-house. But we've gone and we talk about our whole gamut. Yes. And what we have found is, during COVID, everything shifted. Yes. So we looked at our training numbers. We couldn't do the face-to-face. We had to shift to online. So we had to change what we were doing. Yes. The employees at some of the larger companies were not, they weren't there. They didn't know how to struggle, but then manufacturing things had to keep going. So there were some very unique things we had to do. We have had, difficulties over the years trying to, just say, this is what we're doing. They're like, I can do it myself or I can pay somebody else. They're going, institutions, higher ed institutions focus on graduates. That's all they think about. Yes. And we've had to really do a lot of education. And it's kind of ironic when we talk about workforce development and we have to educate, but we have to really go in and talk to the industry. And a lot of the time, especially when we talk about the pre-K-12, they're like, oh, that doesn't affect me at all. And we're really like, no, you need to build your next worker. Let's look at what your workforce is. And if you look at the baby boomers are starting to retire. Yes. And it's like you don't want to have this big gap. You need to start thinking now about the awareness and getting people involved. So we talk about all of our programs and try to figure out the best. But it has really been a selling. We were not doing a lot of things in manufacturing. The big manufacturing push, I think that was one thing where COVID did help us. Yes. In that when the supply chain completely broke, then people started recognizing the need for, hey, there's a problem here. Somebody's got to figure this out. Yes. And so we have really had to go in and talk to industry about, hey, we can help you here. We can train or upskill or reskill your current workforce to adapt to some of these things. But we can also work through the academies and the pre-K-12 group, work about, let's look at what your future is going to be, because manufacturing, for example, is not the same now. It's not now what it was years ago. Yes. You talk about shop floors, and a lot of times when we talk to students even, they're like, I don't want to go into manufacturing because it's dirty. Yeah. That's the old floors. It's not. You go into manufacturing now and they're robotics and it's clean. You can eat off some of those floors. It's just amazing. So it's really an education piece and figuring out best of how we can help the industry. So I think it's a lot of how we've had to adapt how we talk to industry. Yes. It's not as coming in selling a product. It's how we can make your life in industry easier. Nice. So I think it's been the conversation, and we have shifted that, and I think higher ed in general is having to shift that direction.
And I think that word you use, the conversation, I think that is the most critical in maintaining and adjusting relationships, relationships with every type of partner. It's just that constant dialogue to make sure that we're all on the same page, and if we need to adjust our relationship or what resources are available, we can do that.
The other side we've had of that is that, we can use a lot of times industry, they have the experts on our professional education. We use our faculty a lot, but we can also use industry experts and help and guide them on how to create and how to do training programs for either, their company or even other companies. So I think that's also a give and take that's a little bit unique, that they're a little surprised sometimes when we say that, and how we can help out and we can help each other out.
I love that. And that's what a healthy relationship is about. So I want to, if you don't mind, talk about that $6.4 million grant on workforce. Can you talk a little bit about it? That's substantial, and especially coming from the Department of Defense.
It is, and I tell you, we work very closely with Secure America Institute here. They have been a fantastic partner for us. We have 2 or 3 projects going on now with them that came from some of their past relationships and their work. But it is directly looking at what their needs needs are. I mean, we are fantastic. The relationship with the Department of Defense is really good for A&M anyway. Secure America has a great relationship with them. Our sponsors there are really focusing on the pipeline of what's coming up. Yeah. They've also realized, we have found, and they showed me a picture of a tank when we were first having these conversations, and they showed me for tank 1 and then tank 2, and they're going, there's little nuances here, and forget that it took 30 years to make this change. So, as things are adapting and as we're getting ready, we're really, I said, looking at the middle skills of what that is. I mean, like I said, the engineers, I think we have that piece down. So what we're focusing on this grant, this is particularly for the state of Texas. Yeah. We're focusing on 3 areas right now. We're focusing on South Texas, we're focusing on East Texas, and then the North Metroplex kind of area. And we intentionally did that so we could have a very rural area. We also looked at, and we had a metropolitan area. We looked at our population, our underrepresented groups. There's a lot of the underrepresented groups. They're across Texas anyway, but in those particular areas. And we wanted to kind of develop programs, training programs for each of the areas. We're going in and we're doing a little bit of the economic work. Yes. So real excited about that. We also have another program that we have gotten that is kind of part of that, but it is the Texas Aerospace Defense Community, another $6.2 million grant, and that is to actually go into each of these areas. That one takes the Triangle area, the San Antonio, Austin. It takes the DFW area, the Houston area, down to the Valley, but it's to really go in and work with the community and the economic development, small businesses, to really get that manufacturing pipeline going and to help small businesses succeed as we're starting to move into the advanced manufacturing area.
I love how you brought up small businesses, because I think sometimes when we talk about these major institutions Correct. And these really large industries, these partners, sometimes maybe our listeners aren't aware or cognizant that there is intention in working with those small businesses, those family businesses perhaps even.
It is very much so, and especially we have found in the manufacturing areas that, especially in the DOD, when you look at the supply chain, it's not, the big companies have to get their parts from somewhere.
That's right.
And many, many times it's small businesses. It's the mom and pops that start their machining shops in their garage kind of things. So it may be if they have one individual that may be doing 3 jobs.
Yes.
We talk about this a lot with, especially with the Department of Defense. Cybersecurity is a good example. Cybersecurity, it may be that there's not an individual, in charge of cybersecurity or making sure that all their documents and everything, or they don't click on the wrong thing or stuff. It may be the person that's going to turn around and run the lathe over in the corner. So it's very much so of looking at what these individuals are and making sure that we're training or working with them to get the skills they need to perform all the duties they have to.
So again, working with all these different partners, be it education, pre-K-12, higher education, industry, government agencies, what has been one of the most rewarding aha moments for you, and maybe one of the greater challenges for you?
I think the challenge has been getting awareness in or getting our foot in the door. I think that's been the biggest thing. I mean, we have been very fortunate. The Texas Workforce Commission is a very, very good friend of ours. We have been very fortunate to get this. In 2019, we became the home of the Texas Science and Engineering Fair. And, it's like, well, that's kind of an ironic, kind of an odd thing for A&M, the BART PK-12 group to do. But we have found, and that's what's so cool, is we go through, so we have, the state winners.
Yes.
They go through the regional competition, and these students, there's a middle school division and a high school division, and we come through here, and these students bring their projects. They're the best and the best and the brightest of the state, and our faculty are the judges a lot. And I've had faculty walk up to me and tell me, "Hey, this ninth grader's project is what my PhD student is doing." It is just, they are just amazed by this.
Yes,
but the very first year we did, we were so fortunate. We sent our winners from Texas go to the international competition, and we sent last year 12 projects to the international competition. 8 of our 12 from the state of Texas won prizes at the international competition. So it shows just the fantastic work that our teachers in the schools are doing, mentoring these students as they go up through there, and what great students we have. So that's just it just really makes it worthwhile when you see that.
Yes.
As I said, I think probably the biggest challenge we've had is being able to get in the schools. There's a lot of institutions in Texas, a lot of higher ed institutions, and sometimes they're just like, well, yeah, nobody else talking to them. But it's really kind of letting them know what our programs are, getting the word out of what we have, and that we have such a wide array that you may not fit into this box, but we have various things that can do that that we can help you with, whether it's training the teachers, whether it's training the students, and we try to take a really good combination, especially on the pre-K-12 side, of doing both. I mean, we love to have competitions and things with students, but we also, because it gets them excited, it gets the thinking skills, the design competition going. But we have found that if we can train, NPI knows this, if you can train the teachers, it's such a large effect that they have on so many generations coming after that.
That's right. And I've found with our educational partners, those teachers actually in the trenches, so to speak, the classrooms, it's amazing. The best professional educator out there, they are all day long with these students. So sometimes they need our help maintaining their ongoing education, that passion for what they do, because working with young people can be draining emotionally, physically, all the things. So it's wonderful when we're able to provide these opportunities.
And one of the other things that's been really, really good with our Spark Pre-K-12 group is we have a mobile makerspace. So we were very fortunate, probably about 4 years ago, to get some funding for this mobile makerspace, because what we had found is that teachers and students cannot all pick up, especially in the rural areas, cannot pick up and come to A&M for this. But what we can do is we can take that and go out to the schools. I said, I show my age a little bit. I said, it's kind of like the bookmobile. I remember when I was growing up, and we would get so excited when the bookmobile would drive into our area that we could actually go on and get a book and pick it out of the library. And I said, so it's, our mobile makerspace allows us to go out into these rural areas. And, this is not a trailer that you go up on. It's one that it kind of unfolds, and we have little pop-up tents, and we have, whether it's manufacturing or water projects or aerospace, fun, exciting things that the kids can do to get really excited about it. We do that one day, and then maybe the next day we spend in the area doing professional development for the teachers, so they can learn to incorporate some of those things into their everyday classwork that they can do. So it's very second nature to the kids. It's not let's spend 15 minutes doing engineering today. It's integrated into what their curriculum is.
Nice. So I'm going to begin to close out our conversation. I'm trying to be respectful of the time, but before we pivot in that direction, are there any projects, anything you really want to highlight our audience to know about before we take one more pivot?
I think we have a couple of things. I think on the academy, we talked about that. We are expanding our academies. We have 7 right now. We hope to add 2 or 3 more this next year, just because we are so passionate about providing opportunities, pathway opportunities to engineering for all Texans. Like I said, and it's beyond Texas, but especially across the state. So we're trying to cover the whole state of Texas. I think that's a big one. Another one, as we are developing our next step forward, we have Texas A&M has a project or a program called the Aggies Invent program, and very excited. It's our college students do Aggies Invent, which is a 48-hour design experience. We have our Spark team, and we started this. We've done a few competitions before COVID, and COVID kind of slowed us down, so we are back out actively doing this. But we have a competition called Aggies Invent Junior. So we have taken this down to the high school level, and we bring students together and then we pair them on teams, but it's teams that it can't be from their same school, teams they haven't worked with. So you have a team of 4,
Yes.
4 or 5 that they have to come together. We work with industry where they pick projects, they have need statements, and the students within a 48-hour time, and you know this from being in the schools, being 48 hours with a group of high school kids is a little intimidating a little bit. We give them lots of snacks and lots of things to keep them going, but they have to get together and they have to solve whatever that problem is. They have to actually use materials that we have, which are everyday materials, and they have to create a prototype during that time, and then they have to turn around and they have to create a little video pitch, and then they have to pitch this to judges for actually prize money. And it is so funny. It's the competition is so great because you can see them interacting and working with people that they've never, met until 5 minutes before, that are their age. They have to figure out the dynamics of the group. They have to have leaders. They have to have budgets. They have to have all these things. They have to develop the prototype. Then they have to make the pitch and the communication skills. So you see all of this going together, and they have to go through the whole design process. Yes. So it really gets kids excited, and it lets them know, hey, I can do this.
That's right.
Where they normally didn't think they could.
And that they fit in because they feel more comfortable being in these spaces that perhaps they never have before.
Exactly.
So it's even more of a possibility.
Exactly.
Love it. So just one more time for the audience, you mentioned the 7 academies. Can you list off where they can be found?
Yeah, so that actually is, it's going to be a test now.
Okay.
So Houston, we have Houston at Houston Community College. We have Brenham, which is Blinn College in Brenham. We have Austin Community College. We have Alamo in San Antonio.
Yes.
We have Dallas College.
Yes.
We have Midland College, way out in Midland. And now we have Tarrant County College up in Fort Worth.
I love it. I love it. And that's not even including, you mentioned all the relationships with TSTC.
Oh, great. No, that's not even including it. Those are just strict academy programs.
And I think, again, thank you for going through that list.
Yes.
It really wasn't a test.
It was. I made them all. I had to count them off on my fingers, but I made them all.
It was for our audience.
No, I think that's
so.
great.
As we close out, I want to ask you a personal question.
Okay.
I understand you're a grandmother.
I am. I'm a new grandmother and going to be grandmother number 2.
I love it.
So excited.
So can you share your grandmother name with us? Or
Well, right now I am well, it's one of those that we spend a lot of time, my son's like, oh, we're going to be this, and with the other grandma and grandparents, and you go all of that, and we're like, well, we'll come up with something, but we're going to tell you that our grandchild is going to call you whatever they want to anyway.
That's so true.
But yes, I am Grandma Cece.
Oh,
and because, I go by Cindy, but my name is Cecilia, actually. And that's where it came from, was Grandma Cece.
Oh, that is wonderful.
So real excited. Yes, we have Theodore. He goes by Teddy, but he's Theodore Allen, and he's 18 months. And they are expecting child number 2 in December, January time frame.
That is so great.
So.
Well, I had to ask the question because it seems as though whenever we've been in meetings, that topic always comes up, and there is a light about you that whenever you mention that topic or a particular family member, there's a radiance.
Thank you.
I think
I tell you, it is exciting because you see yourself. We have a son, and then we have a daughter, and this is our son's child, and you go through and you go through your kids, and you go through education. And my husband's a professor also, so we've always been in higher ed. Both our kids grew up around higher ed, but then when you go back and when they get grown, the light goes out a little bit. I mean, we're fortunate enough in working in higher ed that we can see kids, and we're around students a lot and around the pre-K kids. But yeah, it brings it back personal when you see the learning process, especially the first 2 or 3 years when they're starting to walk and they're starting to talk and they're seeing and they're figuring things out and they're putting pieces together. It's just amazing.
Oh, I love that. And thank you for sharing that side of you. And I can only imagine too that also adds to your fuel for what you do every day, because it has to be draining.
It does. No, it is. And I tell you, it is, there's a lot of things we do. We sit in a lot, and you know this too. You sit in a lot of meetings and we plan things and we do things, but I always try to go out and be hands-on on the involvement with the students and the events and the things we do, because that's where you get your energy back. You see the outcomes and you see what the students do and how important it is to the students, and that's when you go back and say, okay, it's okay. I can sit in these meetings and I can go through this planning, but I did this for a purpose, because it really is someone that is affected by all the things we do.
Oh, I love it. And what a perfect way to end our conversation.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for coming in today. Not only was it joyful, but it was simply an honor. I know, again, your schedule is quite busy.
Thank you.
So
thank you. Enjoyed doing this.
Awesome.
Thanks.
So to our audience, thank you so much for listening today. I hope you've had the opportunity to listen to the entire conversation and all of our other conversations on all of our platforms. And I don't know about you, but for me, I'm going to take Cindy's lead and work hard to work with all of our partners to work and make a better, brighter workforce, one that's more prepared for our country, for our great state of Texas. But more importantly, let's refill our spirit with working with young people, getting in there, working with them with our hands and our spirit, because that's where we can refuel our efforts. Thank you so much and have a great day.